Hello everyone, Malphite here, and today I want to talk about Rogue and their situation in the off-season. So if you are following the LEC off-season at least a little bit, then you have probably noticed that Rogue only has Larssen confirmed and no other players because they are still trying to sell their team to some other organization. However, if this doesn't go through, or even if this does go through, they already are so late in the offseason that all the other LEC teams are locked and like half of the former LCS or the LTA North players are locked, and so there's not much to be picking from, and especially if you do not succeed to sell your team, the budget is also going to be low. However, what I wanted to say is that it's not all doomed yet, and that is because you technically have the last ticket to go to LEC, to go to a major league. And so even if you do not have the money, some players who actually want to win and who want to show their skill and who want to prove themselves might be really interested in this opportunity, right? Because if you are a player, you go to the LEC, you show what you're made of, you show you're skilled, then you increase your market value. Next year maybe teams are willing to pay more for you. Even if you are not going to continue playing in the LEC, like the ERL teams are going to be more interested. Or even like maybe some other team is going to pick you up, or if you do well in Rogue, maybe they want to keep you on the team and so on. So that's why in this video I wanted to show that there are still players that you could put on this roster in case they still want to play in the LEC. So let's start with the top lane, where there are still many great players. So we have Finn. So Finn already was on Rogue, and so then I don't know how likely it is that we are going to see him back on the team, because that team did not perform well at all. But he is pretty much a veteran top laner. He's been on CLG, XL, Stralis, then he returned back to Rogue, and he's still a very good top laner and still probably an LEC material. Definitely not the top of the top players, but still he could keep up and he could do well in the league. But if you do not want to go with Finn, you could go with Wunder. Now maybe Wunder costs a lot of money, and so maybe he's out of the option anyway. So maybe, obviously he still has a contract with Heretics, and so they technically still need to pay him if you don't cancel the contract. So maybe he's fine just being on the bench and getting the nice money from Team Heretics. Maybe it would be expensive to buy him out and then also pay him some salary that's good enough for a player of his caliber. But it's still an option. Like maybe if a good team buys Rogue and wants to build like a strong roster, he's still a solid option. Next up we have Adam. Adam, a name that's been thrown around a lot during the LEC offseason. Almost all the teams do not want Adam or are not really interested in him. But that is because of his attitude and stuff, but maybe you could overlook that and give him a chance, because after all he is still very skilled, very good mechanical player, and someone you could potentially have with the discount on your team. And we already have Larssen, and so this team would already look very strong, but I guess no organization really wants to deal with the internal stuff and so on. But potential, there's still potential there. Another potential is Odoamne. He's been in Rogue already, then he got replaced by Finn, and now Finn was the last player on the team, so maybe he can replace Finn again. They kind of do this all the time, where one player replaces the other. Now Odoamne recently has been more of a content creator / staff on the broadcast and so on, but I still think he's a very strong player. He's like a really good weak side, so if you just put him into the team, the rest of the team can focus on what they do, and he's a guy who will not win the lane, but he will also not lose it. And so I think Odoamne is also a very good pickup. One more player that I actually forgot to add here, so I'll just mention him, is Photon. Like many teams were trying to get Photon. So I think he's still one of the best top laners, and I don't know how expensive he is, but probably you could get some deal with him, because there's also not many teams left that he could go to, and he could still stay in the LEC and show how good he is, and you could get Photon for a discount as well in your situation. And then one more player that I can think of who did not play in the LEC, but he's still very strong player, is Aibo. And just look at these teams. He's 27 and he's still very, very good, although he's not very young. So that's about it for top lane position. Now let's go to the jungle. Selfmade. So this guy definitely wants to make his way back into the LEC. Maybe not he will not be on a good team, but I think still that he wants to show how good he is, show his talents. And so, if he could get a ticket into a team like Rogue, that's an LEC team, he could have a huge comeback. It would definitely help his stream as well, and he could prove us wrong and prove the haters wrong, right? And just retain that glory once again. So Nemesis already has a team, so maybe Selfmade could get one as well. But in case it's not Selfmade, it could be LeBron. So he played for the Ramboot Club in the LVP, a very strong player from Bulgaria. Again, a player that has similar to Ibo, actually, that a player who has not been in the LEC, but definitely is of the caliber of an LEC player. But if you don't get him, then there's also Malice, another player who is of the caliber to be playing in the big leagues. Most recently, he's been playing for Ruddy Esports, which is the Don Jakes team in the NLC. And so now, you could get him. He's Swedish as well as Larssen, so maybe there's some synergy if you are thinking of that, or I don't really know. But even though he's a bit older, he's still a really good player, which is kind of like a running theme by now. If you're still like keeping track of the players that I'm trying to mention, this is kind of like a running theme. Another player that you could get is Peach. He was also in Giant X and XL in the LEC previously, and then he was in their academy. But still, a guy who showed a lot of promise in the academy, in the Unicorns of Love, previously was in DRX. He's South Korean and still a lot of skill. So, Peach is another option that you could get probably for a discount. And if you want to go to a bit more unknown players, to a bit younger players, you could also get X and S from the Boostgate esports, from the, EMEA, but also previously a Turkish league. So this is a Turkish player. You could definitely get him for the jungle position. Someone who does not have a team yet. And then lastly, we have Blurzor, a Hungarian player who again was in so many teams, not yet in LEC. So you could definitely give this guy a chance. He has that experience, and you probably could build a roster that you would not go 10th placed with. It's not a roster that you would win the whole league with, but you could try and see. Then we have Larssen, obviously. That's our only locked player we know, so I just wanted to show him here. You would have Larssen in the mid lane. He's been with Rogue basically almost the whole time since he was in the LEC. Next up, we have Patrik in the AD carry position. So we know Patrik was a mainstay name in the XL for quite some time, for quite many years, but now he's out and he's getting replaced by Noah. And so he's a kind of an LEC player caliber, player of an LEC caliber who you could pick up. You would have to probably buy him out unless the Giant X would lower his buyout or something, but it's one of the options. If you do not want to buy him out, if it's too expensive or something, here's a similar player that you do not have to buy out. It's Neon, and Neon was also in the LEC. He was playing for Misfits, he was playing for Schalke, then Misfits again, Team Vitality, and since then he was on SK Gaming Prime, and he was doing really well even there. Got to the upper positions in the EMEA Masters. So Neon, a very, very strong pickup. But if not Patrik and Neon, you could still go for Xmati, another player who was doing really well in the ERLs and then was in the LEC for a year. Was not really impressive. He was probably the worst AD carry in the LEC. But if your options are pretty low, then still a solid pickup. But no, if not Xmati, you could always go for Jeskla, who's also a Swedish player, just like Larssen and Malice and Finn. And he was also in the LEC. He was doing really well, and since then he was doing really, really well on the ERL teams as well. So I think still a player of the LEC caliber. And then finally, moving on to the supports, you could still get Kaiser, who's arguably a very, very good support player, but you would have to buy him out from Team Heretics. So if there's not enough money to get Kaiser, you could go and get Treatz, who's another Swedish player and who's been pretty good, recently been a coach, but still is looking for that player position. So maybe someone who would be open to get a bit of a pay cut and be on an LEC team because he still wants to be a player and showcase his skill. Very, very seasoned player, you know, he's been on TSM, SK Gaming, Immortals, Dignitas, so he's been places. But you know, if it's not Treatz, you could always get Hantera, another player who has not been playing in the LEC before, but he's been really, really good on the ERL teams. And then if not Hantera, then you could go for MXE, so another Turkish player, this time from the Rambut Club. The support player, yeah, similar case as XNS for the jungle. You could get him in the support, and he's like a bit younger and still very, very strong and already has a lot of experience. So I can see Rogue go kind of 3 ways. One way is to build a full Swedish team, which I think would actually be a really, really good, way to take it. Something like Koi did basically, except for Jojo Pyun and Fresco previously, but all the other players are Spanish. So Rogue could just do the same. They could get Finn back, they could get Malice in the jungle, they could get Jeskla and Treatz. And they could get this with a discount, and it could be a Swedish roster. They could just speak Swedish. Or, you know, they would have the same culture, same vibes, and maybe they would be more willing to play together to kind of see what this kind of project would do and how it would go. That's number one, option number one. Option number two that I could see Rogue doing would be to just embrace the toxicity and just full send all the players that have had some issues with attitude previously. So you could get like Adam in the top lane, you could get like Selfmade in the jungle. Then obviously you have Larssen, so that's already locked. But then you could get, yeah, I don't know, just get like Patrik and I don't know, Hantera or something. I don't know, you know, just get the toxicity in the top side, in the top lane and jungle, and see how that one would go. Because these players are definitely mechanically gifted, but they might have some issues. So I would love to see Adam and Selfmade on one team, and you know, you're most likely going to crash and burn, but on the off chance, you are going to build something really, really crazy with Adam and Selfmade and Larssen. So that's number two. And option number three is basically you bet it on some rookies. So you could get like XNS in the jungle. You could get who was I mentioning? I'm gonna quickly click through all these players. Oh yeah, MXC. You got MXC in the support, already 2 Turkish players. You know, maybe you find like a good Turkish top laner and Turkish AD carry, and you could even build like a Turkish team in Rogue or something. But most importantly, get some good rookies and basically do what Team Heretics did. Try to really risk it and just full send it and run it with some really good rookies and Larssen, and then maybe you're gonna find some good player potentially for the future, or maybe you're gonna get some bags, and some teams are going to buy out these players from you. So those are the options. I apologize for rambling a bit in this video. If you want to stay safe on the internet, if you are worried about people seeing what you do, people seeing your location, or if you want to access some content which is not available in your country, check out NordVPN. The link is in the description. They have a massive Black Friday sale right now happening, and I'm affiliated with them. So if you want to help the channel as well, go check that out. Like the video, subscribe, let me know what you think about this, most importantly in the comments. I'm looking forward to all your ideas, all your tips and tricks and everything. You know, stay rock solid, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.